Welcome back, everyone. StarSeries Season 3 brought to you by StarLadder and iLeague. We are going into the next match, which will be E-Cup. Who will it be?
It's SjoW versus Zalae.
Alright, so two players that are being known for, let's say, the innovation in the deck building. And to be honest, I didn't see SjoW in tournaments for quite a while, so I'm pretty hyped to watch him play. Zalae streams a lot lately, a lot more than he was actually in the past. So I hope to see him bringing some innovative decks as well. And this is actually the virgin match of Group B. They didn't play a single match yet in the Group B, so no one actually knows what will be happening there. Well, let's maybe talk a little bit about that group. As you can see already, here we are. We have SjoW, Stansivka, RDU, JJ, Kolento, Pavel, Stan Udachi, and Zalae. So only one player from actually US in the Group B, which actually is the case for Group A as well. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't end the same way as Frozen. By the way, we have to say a small disclaimer here. Frozen against Heis will be cancelled for the day, and Frozen will be, well, awarded a loss. 0.
Yeah, Frozen unfortunately didn't make it on time to his designated match versus Thais, so he will be receiving a match loss for that. And hopefully Frozen will be on time, maybe still for his second scheduled match for today.
Yes.
But yeah, let's just hope he makes it.
Hopefully. So we'll have something to watch later on. But the next match, as we told you before, SjoW from Sweden, Zalae from the US. I actually didn't think I ever saw them battle out in a tournament before. Do you remember any matches between those two?
Not off the top of my head. I'm sure they faced off at some point, but yeah, I don't recall anymore when that was.
Yep.
So yeah, but that's typically how it is in the Hearthstone pro scene. Everybody knows everyone, and at some point everyone has faced everyone. It would be a big coincidence if somebody did not play another pro in the scene. So yeah, being in so many tournaments and all that stuff. So I would be surprised if this was their first encounter.
Yeah, that's true. We had a lot of tournaments in the past for the 3 years so far. Man, Hearthstone is getting old. That's what I can tell you. From the 2013 beta phase, wow. So there's actually a lot of stuff. I would like to see like all these stats so far from the years that we had. The amount of tournaments, the amount of prize pools being paid out, the amount of players played in tournaments. Like that will be some cool stats to see, but unfortunately impossible when you have so many third parties involved, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some websites that keep track of that kind of data, but yeah, it's not necessarily 100% reliable at all times. So yeah, it's tough to figure out what kind of data is the correct one. But yeah, it would be interesting to see, because Hearthstone came a very long way since 2013. Like you said, it has evolved a lot, and yeah, it keeps evolving with the introduction of Standard, of course, the Year of the Kraken, now the Year of the Mammoth. The set rotations being more smooth, it seems, nowadays. So I'm really looking forward to what the Year of the Mammoth and the subsequent year will bring to Hearthstone.
Hopefully the next expansion will be as good as this one, and when it comes to the variety that it brings to the game, right? So that's actually, to be honest, I think like Hearthstone is right now in the best state since it was from the beginning. When it comes to like the level of variety in the decks, right? We have so many playable decks. So right now,
yeah, and it's interesting as well because it seems like, especially after a rotation, the card pool would be a little bit shallow. So with that considered, with that put into consideration, it's especially surprising that there's such a huge variety of decks in the standard format. The only class that has been that did file off
is Warlock.
Since the set came out of Ngoro, it was the Warlock. Zoo was very popular actually at the start, but people figured out that other classes have the same capabilities of putting aggression on the board, just like Zoo, and if not even better.
Yeah, Druid seems like the new zoo currently when it comes to like the aggressive board control options. And let's talk about that because we see that both SjoW and Zalae are running Druids. No idea which kind of Druids are those. When it comes to the bans, SjoW's Warrior is banned. No surprise, SjoW known for his Warrior deck abilities in the past, and Zalae's Rogue is banned. So we're not gonna see a Quest Rogue at all in this match since SjoW is not running not running a Rogue at all. There's a Druid, Mage, and a Paladin, and the Warrior getting banned. From Zalae is a Warrior, Druid, and Paladin. So very similar, apart from that
Yeah.
class.
Since this is the first match of Group B, I'm sure that both these players can only guess what decks they're playing, respectively. So, I mean, SjoW's lineup could range from being a hyper control lineup featuring J Druid and that slower type of Burn Mage, a slower type of Paladin, and, and Quest Warrior. But it could also be the opposite side of the spectrum. It could be Aggro Warrior. It could be Pirate. It could be Pirate Warrior. It could be Aggro Druid. It could be like this secret, this aggressive secret mage that has been popular nowadays. And of course, a super aggressive Paladin version as well.
Not a big fan of the secret mage, but at the same time, I would like to see it in tournament play because it's just interesting archetype. What do you think about
definitely.
it?
I've seen a lot of people recently have great success with it and reaching higher ranks in Legend with that more aggressive secret-based mage version. So I'm really looking forward to see that deck in action. But maybe SjoW just brought the pretty standard burn mage that has been the most popular throughout the last couple of weeks. So my bet would be on that deck because this aggressive secret mage still needs to be seen how strong it can really be in the meta, and especially when people know what they're playing against, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And now we can see that. So we'll be playing the mage, but it doesn't seem like the tempo secret version. At least I would guess so. With the Medivh, probably not.
That's true. I mean, I would be surprised to see that deck at all in this tournament. After all, the players all had to submit their decks on May 5th. May 8th, I think, and this deck has popped up after that decklist submission deadline. So yeah, it would be really surprising to see that deck in action actually. So I think it's not surprising to see SjoW bringing the standard version of the Burn Mage. Zalae, on the other hand, does of course play a Paladin with Murlocs, as most people do, which is interesting as well. I mean, I wouldn't mind people bring less Murlocs to the table. Of course, Murlocs give you so much potential power, but being Conquest and all, this strategy can also backfire a lot by people bringing Hungry Crabs to all of their decks, for example.
You think so? That someone would actually commit to a Hungry Crab in a tournament for 7 matches?
It's certainly possible,
That's
considering
awesome,
that Paladin is the most popular class after all. So, and all people bring is Murloc-based Paladins. Then, yeah, it's definitely a viable strategy to just go for a full-on Hungry Crab lineup.
But look at that. By the way, that blowout turn 1 was amazing. The Tide Collar killing a Manavum and still being on board as at 3-2 is an amazing feature. Quote unquote. But look at that. He can still get some tempo here by playing a Peacekeeper and trading.
Right.
But I don't think I like it, but at the same time it builds pressure and also gives more minions on the board for the turn 4 Blessing of Kings, which then can be played into turn 4 Finja, so pressure every single turn.
Right. I mean, typically it's not valuable to dispose of such weak minions like that, like the Arcanologist, unless you really want to preserve your every minion on the board. Zalae decides to push some aggression to the face. Of course, it's more valuable if you're the proactive deck to just go for face and make your opponent do the trades for you. However, of course, this opens up the possibilities for SjoW to have better trades combinable with the cards in his hand. For example, this Volcanic Potion that we see. If Zalae went for the attack on the Archaeologist with the Murloc Tidecaller, SjoW would not be able to utilize Volcanic Potion right now to greater effect.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting.
Now with the attack on the Elder Peacekeeper, for example, and using Volcanic Potion, he can dispose of 2 3-attack minions, only leaving a 2/1 on the board.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like the no trade here. I can understand the point of like, you know, just going face. 3 damage is a lot, but still, SjoW didn't go for the Volcanic Potion. Keeps it for later turn. Gets a Mortal Coil, which is interesting because of the fact that he has a Thalnos in hand. So he keeps the Volcanic, like the plan was to keep the Volcanic Potion for the Thalnos turn, for turn 4, right? And that deals 3 damage, and doesn't like, you know, but it kind of plays into a Gentle Megazord. So it's kind of risky.
Right, it is a risk that you have to, that SjoW is willing to take here with 25 health and only 3 minions on the board. There's no way he can like die immediately here, but of course, SjoW still doesn't know how aggressive this Paladin can be, and judging by this Grimscale Charm and Blessing of Kings, it's a very aggressive list from Zalae.
I think so as well. I mean, the Blessing of Kings is kind of insane here on this turn.
Yeah, if SjoW knew from the start that he's facing such an aggressive Paladin deck, he might not be comfortable taking so much damage early stage and use his Volcanic Potion a little bit more conservatively.
But look at that. Zalae didn't play around the Volcanic Potion, obviously, because he didn't see it last turn, and now he plays directly into it.
Yeah, most of the time you have to think about it though this way. Volcanic Potion is a one-off in the deck, and typically when you're facing off against perceived one-offs, then you often not the approach is just to be like, yeah, he's just not going to have it this early. Potentially, it's the chance of SjoW's Volcanic Potion still being in his deck is larger than not being in this deck and being in the hand instead.
Yeah, that's true.
So they took that risk and got punished.
He saw his face. He was like, well, crap. And now the problem is that 3/5 Finja actually denies playing any kind of minions on the board. You don't want to actually play into anything into it. The problem is Flame Strike doesn't really help at all. So even if SjoW would have Flame Strike in his hand, which could have been coined out next turn, it still doesn't deal with it.
Yeah, the Finja is having the 3/5 Finja obviously really nice against potential Flame Strike or even Meteor. And yeah, it also denies SjoW from playing minions, but at the same time, SjoW might also feel happy about seeing that Finja come down on an empty board because he knows now, okay, he's not going to get value from Finja for a long time if I want to, because SjoW is obviously in the position where he just doesn't have to play any minions into the Finja and just play other spells instead. And now this Finja is kind of worthless.
Yeah, but I'm just laughing because that Spellbender, man, it's so good. Even if you don't assume that there will be a Blessing of Kings in that deck, there will be most likely a Spike Reach Steed. And that's even better. So if your opponent uses 6 mana to get nothing and give your opponent a 3/7, 3/9 actually, and a 2/6 taunt.
Yeah, whenever you see a secret come down from a Primordial Glyph, you have to navigate things very, very carefully as the Paladin, because a potential Spike Reach Steed or like a Blessing of Kings in Zalae's case being countered by this counterspell or even worse, Spellbender, that would be completely devastating, and he needs to check meticulously for every other secret first before committing to that Blessing of Kings.
Yeah, that Blessing of Kings might spell disaster. And man, I mean, this turn probably just Hero Power and the Runner. I mean the Hunter, sorry. The Rockbull Hunter to just buff the smaller minion. I guess you want to play around the Hero Power. You won't be able to play around the Flame Strike unless you play the Blessing of Kings. But you still didn't check for like Counter Spell.
Right.
So, or, you know, the Spellbender. So that's kind of awkward.
Yeah, Zalae now sees the Ice Barrier come out. But there's still a secret that he doesn't know. It could very well be Ice Block, for all Zalae knows.
Yeah, could be. You didn't see a second Sorry, second secret from SjoW being played from the hand. So hard to guess. And now he's getting wrecked. That flame strike value, man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well,
it does seem like Zalae now has to commit to something here. It seems like the perfect play on curve is the Tarim. Of course, there are minions in SjoW's deck which are worth shrinking down. Medivh and Alexstrasza come to mind. But on curve right now, the best board development for Zalae here would be Hero Power into Tarim.
Yeah, and the problem is he has 2 Blessing of Kings. I mean, actually, 2 Blessing of Kings is better than 1. Because the 1 is pointless. The second one would actually help him clear out the first one. As bad as it sounds. But that's actually, I think it's better for him to draw the second one if he wants to play something at all.
Right. Yeah, the problem for Zalae is also, even if he tries to play around it, there's no way to actually play around it because there is no other spells that he can sacrifice into the Spellbender. Sure, he can get he can play around Counterspell by using Hydrologist, but that doesn't play around Spellbender.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Blessing of Kings will be dead card pretty much throughout the whole game.
And if he gets the Spikeroot Steed at some point, well, actually, if he plays double Blessing of Kings, he might not be playing Spikeroot Steed at all. I would guess. They have like the same purpose in the deck. So I wouldn't be surprised. Man, what such a weird situation for Zalae. Like, he can't really leave that Falnos around, but he knows that Meteor and Flamestroke were already used. Volcanic Potion was used as well.
Yeah, so with so much AoE being used, having been used for show, he might as well ignore the Falnos and push damage somewhere else instead.
And this will be the crucial moment. Look at Zalae's face, and he's like, oh my god. Well, actually, he didn't react at all. But
he kind of saw it coming. After all, he played around this secret from the start, pretty much. But yeah, ultimately, he was forced into a situation where he was just thinking, yeah, I have to hope it's not Counterspell or Spellbender and hope it's Ice Block instead.
Man, that just sucks. That just sucks. 6 damage, Violence Portal will also help a little bit. Oh my! Well, that's helpful.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I mean, not really. It's just a 2/5 charger, but any minion that comes out of Medivh could be a beast as well that gets charge. You never know.
Yeah. Wow, there's a Spikeroot Steed. Look at that. Well, that's a lot of buffs in the Zalae deck. I would say maybe he should consider playing the quest.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit too ambitious.
Yeah.
So yeah, Spikeroot Steed.
Just a yoke, man.
The last hope for Zalae, unless there is something like Divine Favor that refills his hand, Zalae will lose this game unquestionably.
The Pyroblast next turn will put a 10-mana minion on board as well. So, yikes.
Now, picking up the True Silver, but even for weapons, SjoW has the right answer with the Gluttonous Ooze. All the cards falling in SjoW's way. So yeah, this seemed pretty unlosable ever since we saw that Spellbender from the Primordial Glyph.
Can you imagine like the Spikeroot Steed being played on the Spellbender? That would be conceit worthy.
Absolutely, yeah. Just it's basically a mind control for for 3 mana.
For even, well, basically yes, for 3 mana because he used the glyph, right, to get that. But yeah, it's not looking great. It's definitely not looking great. Well, now let's see what SjoW will do. Probably will just invest into the Ice Block since he wants to play safe. But no, he goes for the Pyroblast. Let's see what he will get. Is it a 10-mana beast? Tyrantosaur. No. But man, can you imagine?
12.
Can you imagine Tyrantosaur and just charging 12 right now to the face?
Yeah, Tyrantosaur would be pretty sick here. Interesting still, though, that SjoW, as safe as he seemed to be, did not want to go for the ice block here.
Yeah.
After all, what if Zalae had Leroy in his deck? It would have been GG.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be the first time I've seen Leroy in a Paladin deck. It can be pretty common in those more aggressive types of lists, which Zalae is clearly playing.
Yeah, and now, which is very important for SjoW now, because he is aware that that Paladin is running two Blessing of Kings and a Spike Root Seed. Wait, we didn't see the Spike Root. No, we did see the Spike Root Seed. So that's very crucial information for SjoW. When he will be facing the Paladin again, he will know what's up. He will just he will try to be as clean as possible when it comes to the board wipes, and that will give him an advantage. But now we switch to both Druids.
Right, it's so important to get the information. But now Zalae wants to just keep SjoW guessing and picks another deck here, which is, in fact, not the Jade Druid, but it is the aggressive Druid, which SjoW might see coming based on how aggressive the Paladin was.
There might be like a path, right, for SjoW. Sorry, for Zalae.
Yeah, SjoW could pretty much already guess also from the way Zalae banned. Zalae, after all, banned the warrior, and SjoW is known for playing control style warriors as well. So therefore, it was a reasonable assumption for Zalae that it's going to be quest warrior, and then yeah.
Interesting inclusion in the Dark Reaper.
SjoW now knows that Zalae is an aggro deck, an aggro lineup probably. Yeah, I see that as well. The Dark Reaper and the aggressive Druid, it's a very interesting choice. Just like the Direwolf Alpha, actually, not many players use that card either.
Well, it makes sense when you play Dark Reaper, and it also makes sense when you play a mirror match, right? Or you play against a Pirate Warrior. It's actually crucial, I would say, the Dark Reaper. It's amazing against Corcoran Elites. Pretty decent against Floating Berserker, because it can just soak up the damage or can finish them off with something else. So definitely a neat choice. And what is even more interesting is that Zalae, what's super fun about this deck is that the most options you have with this deck is on turn 1 and 2.
Right, especially when you add Innervate to the mix.
Yeah. It's like, what do you plan to do when you have so many options on turn 1 and 2? It's super interesting to play this deck because, like, usually when you go to the late game, this is where you have the most decisions to make. Usually, of most of the decks. This is like the complete opposite of most of the decks.
SjoW looked a little bit confused there on the first turn there. He innovated out a Jade Druid card and an Aggro Druid card.
And look at that! Violet Teacher as well.
Wow, a very unique take on this aggressive Druid by Zalae. I'm really intrigued to see now what kind of other cards we might be able to expect.
Interesting. But if you play his Violet Teacher, did he increase the amount of spells? I would say no, because you still play the most interesting ones, right? So Mark of the Lotus, Power of the Wild, Innervate, and Living Mana.
Right. I mean, this is pretty much what the Druid is lacking in general. It's like a solid 4-drop, and there's been a lot of debate whether to even play a 4-drop at all in this deck, because they all seem pretty weak. Zalae maybe felt the need to include a 4-drop in his deck. So therefore, he just chose to go for the Violet Teacher, which has been historically very good in this type of token Druid.
Look at that! Hungry Crab.
Yeah.
I think it's very important for Zalae to actually not show it in this match as long as possible. Even maybe completely not show it if it's possible to win without it. But what I'm talking about, he will conceal the deck anyway if he wins. So
right.
Although it might give an idea to show that the other decks might be running the Hungry Crab as well, right?
Right, but yeah, why conceal this fact and just win the game instead?
Yeah, probably better. Probably better. Like, look at that. It's turn 3. Your opponent is at 18, and you have a full board. 5 minions.
And we all know how bad Druid is at dealing with big boards. Sure, there's swipe, but it doesn't get the job done nearly as well as other board clears for the classes. So
Yeah. This looks pretty sad, to be honest. 8 damage. Look at that. 8 damage going to the face. Zalae is facing a difficult decision right now. Fledgling is a minion is a minion that requires 1 turn. 1 turn. If it goes off, it's nuts. It can win you the game on its own if it gets off. Violet Teacher, though, fits the curve better, but it's the same amount of attack, higher health. But you saw your opponent playing Swipe right now. So I think the Fledgling makes more sense.
Yeah, the Fledgling definitely way higher threat, all things considered. If Zalae had a couple of more cards in his hand that could be paired with Violet Teacher, then Violet Teacher might be a better consideration, of course. But in this situation, Vicious Fledgling, of course, a way higher threat when it comes to potential damage output. So I would go for that Fledgling as well.
Let's see what he will choose. He goes for the Violet Teacher instead. Very interesting. Bearing in mind the fact that Fledgling is such a slow creature. Interesting. He plays around Wrath, I guess. And by the way, the Tar Creeper is winning the game. On its own. Yeah. On well, its own.
Yeah, the Tar Creeper has been pretty impactful here, but then again, any other minion could have been just as impactful, right?
Well, not really, since this one has a taunt and just keeps in check all those small minions that I wanted to trade with his small minions. So I feel like the Tar Creeper is really an MVP right now.
Yeah, it looks like it. Curator trying to stop the bleeding a little bit here was forced. Yeah, SjoW was forced to innovate it out, or else he would have just died this turn. And Zalae, of course, also thanks to developing this Violet Teacher now, is able to handle this quite nicely.
You can sacrifice one of the 2/2 minions, trade with the Violet Teacher, hero power, play the Fledgling, and just deal 6 damage to the face. Seems like a very commanding position to me.
Yeah, in order for SjoW to make a comeback here, he would need another Innovate, and then just Innovate out that Primordial Drake in his hand. It's a very interesting choice as well by SjoW here to include double Golakka Crawler. We haven't even touched upon that.
Yeah.
in Druid. Not a card that you typically see, but it seems like he just was expecting a lot of Pirate Warriors. And maybe even like against Aggro Druid it can also work wonders sometimes.
That is true. I mean, double... The thing is, like, a single Hungry Crab can win you the game when you play against a deck that is Murloc focused, right? Like all those Paladins right now. So getting the additional damage while gaining tempo for a 1-mana minion, that's pretty sick, right? So I'm not surprised that he actually tuned, that he actually teched his deck with 2 of those, but at the same time, this is, I think, the only deck that can do this. Because it doesn't really matter like so much if you played it just a basic 1-mana 1/2 minion, right? You have so many buffs in this deck that it actually makes sense that you still play a cheap minion that doesn't do anything in other matchups. While when you play something like a Paladin, when you just play a 1-mana 1/2 minion that doesn't do anything, that's pretty horrible.
Oh, I mean, there's still buffs in Paladin as well. A lot of classes can make use out of those seemingly weak minions, weak-sided minions if you don't get the Battle Cry off. It all depends on how well you can interact with your minions in your deck. So yeah, Paladin also has great tools of doing so. So that's also a reason why we saw in Hungry Crabs in Paladin.
All right, we're going into the Paladin versus Druid. It's 1-1 for SjoW and Zalae. No one's ahead, but now SjoW exactly knows what he's playing around. Playing against. Maybe around us as well a little bit, because he knows now there are 2 Blessing of Kings and at least one Spike Ridge Steed.
A very awkward curve here for Zalae. No 2 and 3 drop to follow up this Grinscale Chum. If Zalae is forced to hero power here, this will be great news for SjoW.
Reporting for duty.
Well, the 1-mana Jade Idol actually is pretty worth a lot in this situation. Takes away 1-mana 2-1 Murloc, which could have been buffed exactly by this. I think you still need to develop the War Eater.
Right. I mean, any board development overall. Sure, the War Eater doesn't have an immediate impact right now, but on board, seemingly it seems like Zalae will maintain control of one of his minions, so that he can then, in that case, buff with Blessing of Kings or the Megasaur, depending on which one survives. But yeah, SjoW has the right answer. Denying Zalae the potential buff with the Blessing of Kings very nicely. Could have done it in another way as well. I'm not sure why he chose to go for the swipe here. Utilizing the coin might have not been necessary. He could have just gone for first scales and hero power.
I was thinking the same. The Elfin scales in this matchup is not really particularly important, like that much. It's not a typical aggro deck. Right. Most likely we're gonna get hit by a train and not by a car in this situation, so it's not as much damage. Sorry, it's actually like a bigger chunk of a damage, so it doesn't really matter if you heal for 5 or 7 when you're gonna get hit for 8, because there's a Blessing of Kings on a minion already. So I would prefer actually having the coin, as mentioned, for that Curator to be played on one turn earlier, or even the Behemoth.
Right. He might have screwed up his mana curve because he utilized this coin a little bit too preemptively here.
That's true. Gateway Kodo, that's a neat trick, I would say. Although SjoW will still clear it, even if that's a Gateway Kodo, he doesn't really care, because just what it does is screws up the tempo of Zalae.
Despite Zalae's slow start, though, he's still in a pretty good position. I mean, after all, SjoW's deck is pretty slow. It is a Druid after all, and now Finja has a 3/5 coming down with the buffs in hand ready. And yeah, Druid, ever since Mulch rotated out with the Year of the Mammoth, Druid has no access to hard removal anymore, except if you want to run Naturalize.
Thank God. Like, holy crap, I was tilted so much when Mulch was still around. It's not a great card, but giving the access to a specific tool to a class that shouldn't have that was pretty tilting, at least for me.
Well, yeah, now Druid definitely had... Druid already had issues before that. Only Mulch was good, and not even that was a great card. And now Druid has absolutely no good tools to deal with minions. You don't want to run Naturalize in your deck. That's not where you want to go. Yeah. So, yeah.
I was actually a fan of the something that was actually a bug, unfortunately, in the game. So, what is it called? The Pyromancer and... like when we changed to the tree ends, what was it called?
Oh, you mean Poison Seeds?
Yeah, Poison Seeds, exactly. Poison Seeds was amazing. Like the way you could have just killed everyone with the Poison Seeds was something I loved.
It's a
unique Druid, but yeah.
Zalae going for the trade first here. He wants to. This pretty much tells me that he wants to go for his Megasaur this turn.
You think so? Because Spike Steed seems good to just play around any kind of like trades with the Finjas. I like just putting it on the 4/4 instead of anything else. Exactly what Zalae does. I like this a lot. Like the problem is for SjoW, he needs to have a ref or swipe, and Zalae knows that the 3 cards that he has in his hand are not that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah. After getting the value from the Finja, and then maybe even getting Wind Fury with the Megasaur, buffing like 4 Murlocs with the Megasaur was possible in that case, and Finja, if he gets Wind Fury, gets another 2 Murlocs on the board, creating a gigantic board for Zalae, which might be impossible for SjoW to come back from. After all, Primordial Drake is still 2 mana crystals away.
That is true. The Megasaur might be a blowout here, but wow, just the Finja. Wait, how can we do this done the best way? Megasaur is 4. So let's say the 6/10 attacks into the 3/6, then Finja kills the Jade Spirit. You get the minions, then you can play Megasaur, and of course before that, or the Murlocs. Seems like a huge blowout. And a redemption.
Yeah, no mana to play it though, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, he went instead for They traded the 4/4.
Well,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, he needs room on the board, right?
Oh, you're right. Correct. You're very correct. Oh wait.
So he doesn't even go for the Megastore here.
Okay, I find this very interesting because he knows that there was no removal for the Finja. So why would you play the Blessing of Kings on this in this situation?
Yeah. Besides, the more minions you have on the board that have that can attack immediately, the better the Megastore becomes, right? I mean, it's nice to have Megastore buff those minions already, but it's even better to have those minions being buffed when they can.
Well, you're playing
use of
against Druid, so I can understand the logic, definitely, that he went for this option instead. Like, most of them will be still alive for the next turn. Or even every single one, look at that. And he can go for 2! If he kills one of his Murlocs, plus attack.
This is just a massive overkill right now.
Yeah, this is like nuts. You can go for the 1/1/1 right now, buff all the minions, kill one of your Murlocs, and then play the second one. Holy
That is absolutely
moly.
huge.
I think this is the first time I could see 2 Megazords being played in one turn.
Well, for that to happen, he needs to sacrifice his 5/3, and doesn't seem like that's necessary since he already has lethal on board.
Nah, play it, man. Play it, man. Nah. I'm sad. Just wanted to see those double Megazords. But yeah.
Didn't need to play the Blessing of Kings.
Commanding fashion from Zalae here, running away with the game against the Druid in something that we see for ages, right? The Druid has a really hard way of making a comeback against a board that has multiple high health minions. They don't need to have like high attack, but if they have high health, you are getting smashed over time, like, you know, chipped away. And in this case, well, if you have both high attack and high health, you probably will lose very fast.
Yep. Definitely a struggle for the Druid in general, and yeah, it's also one of the weaknesses in SjoW's lineup that Zalae wants to exploit with his lineup. After all of his decks thrive on creating that early board and just maintaining it, and Pirate Warrior is one of these classes as well. It can definitely do the same thing by just having a really nice pirate curve and buffing all your pirates with the Southsea Captain. And Zalae even has the Bittertide Hydra in his deck, which is a huge problem for the Jade Druid as well.
That is true. But the hand from Zalae is not really the best one.
Yeah, when you start off by... when your first play of the game is coin 3-drop, then it's definitely not a great aggressive start.
Although, coining out Floating Berserker can go quickly out of hand, since he has a follow-up with the Captain, which will bring the patches. And then patches can attack into something, buff the Floating Berserker. So that's not that bad, right?
Yeah, it's true. Druid does have plenty of ways to deal with an early Floating Berserker. But yeah, if it goes uncontested, it can definitely get out of control fast. Zalae, however, now with the option of having the Fireworks drawn for this turn, can play it to set it up nicely and then just maybe even draw like a one-drop pirate so we can coin out the Bloodsail Cult to immediately upgrade the weapon. Yeah, but it still seems like board development, minion-wise, is better in this situation, so Zalae does go for that.
Still, like, how SjoW can deal with those? Only a Wrath or a Swipe will help here. And that's also very crucial for the informations for Zalae, right? If he will not see a Swipe or a Wrath this turn, that means that SjoW will most likely doesn't have it at all. That's a huge information for him.
Yeah, I totally forgot about those Golakka crawlers in SjoW's deck. They will come and clutch this game, of course.
Well, that's true. If he plays the Captain, patches trades, Floating Berserker gets 4 damage in, but still is problematic how to deal with that Golakka crawl. Actually, for Zalae, the best play here would be Fear Warx, but it's very unintuitive to play it right now. Makes no sense unless you have perfect information that your opponent actually has the Golakka crawler in his hand.
Right.
So no one expects him to do that, right?
It definitely seems better to just be a mana efficient in Zalae's situation. The South Sea Captain just looks very appealing, buffing the Frothing Berserker and killing off the 2/2.
Let's see what will happen. Oh, he goes even for the greedier play. He trades both, I guess? No. Alright, interesting.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting. Makes himself even more vulnerable to a variety of damage spells.
Like swipe here, a top deck swipe actually clears the entire board. And
Right, it would have done this anyway.
but he would have taken damage in the process, right? So
Yeah.
actually it's the same outcome. But now he has 1 million more. So actually it makes sense for the purpose of the damage from the Frothing Berserker for the next turn. It makes more sense because of that.
Well, will we see Golakka Crawler now, or will SjoW hold on to it? Of course, the mana efficient play here seems to be Jade Behemoth. What SjoW could also do is play Golakka. If he goes for Golakka Crawler, he might combine it with the Nourish, so he accelerates himself a little bit further.
I feel like the Golakka Crawler on a 3/3 is just something you have as a wet dream here, so you can't really not do that. The only thing better would be killing a Mega Corsair. But still, he has no good way of dealing with that 14 Berserker, so he can pile in some damage. And that is not great. At all. Second 14 Berserker, unfortunately off curve. So he can't play one of the weapons and play the 14 Berserker. Interesting conundrum right now, because he knows that his opponent is lacking the removal spells. All 3 cards from SjoW are worth more than 3 mana. That's his info right now. That's his read.
Right.
There's no Innervate, there's no removal. All of those are minions or expensive spells. And that means it's Nourish, because basically there's nothing else. I like this turn.
A little bit clunky hand for Zalae here, unfortunately, but trying to make the most out of it. Even though the hand is so clunky, he's still like being really mana inefficient here by using the weapon, but it's still the best way to try and protect this Frothing Berserker right now.
Alright, well, this is kind of awkward. Feels like the best option would be just Rider into a Corsair, kill the Golakka Crawler, after you of course trade with the 14 Berserker. You build up the board, and you have a 5/3 and a 3/4 minion.
Yeah, the Frothing Berserker will still remain alive, and it will put SjoW into a tough situation as well, because you can only utilize that remaining Jade Golem on the board to deal with one of those minions.
Although I think I'm leaning towards second Frothing Berserker more. Because what you can do is play the second Frothing Berserker, then go for the Raider, trade with the Frothing Berserker into the Behemoth, kill the 3/3, and that puts every single of your minions into the range of attack that kills the Golakka Crawler, and you still have weapons and pirates that will buff the weapons in the future. The only downside of this is that you will not have a 4/1 weapon for the upcoming turn, but you're gaining a second Frothing Berserker that is a huge threat for the Druid.
Yeah, there's definitely merit to that play as well. But it does seem like Zalae does not want to spend additional resources to put up a new weapon on the board, which he might definitely need. Primordial Drake coming in clutch to handle this Frothing Berserker without having to use hero power and taking a lot of damage in the process.
And look at that, if he would have actually played the second Frothing Berserker, this would be a non-issue at all. Like, that second Frothing Berserker would just take it on its own, that dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. But now, with the Bloodseer Corsair and the weapon, which has been upgraded twice now, do the same job. So, and yeah, the Frothing Berserker is alive. So, in hindsight, this play is still the correct one.
True. But the problem is that you have 2 other weapons in your hand, and you won't be able to utilize them so fast, right? one of those will be a dead card for the entire game.
Yeah, and those 6 health right now. Oh, actually not that awkward.
Yeah, it's not a problem, right?
Yeah, now you have the Dark Reaper to attack into, so Frauding Berserker is big enough to dispose of the Jade Behemoth.
You can go then with the Corcoran Elite to trade with the 4/4, but at the same time I don't really like it because your opponent is getting faster and faster to drawing one of those rafts or swipes, and then you lose the damage, right? But at the same time you're getting low. You have 16 HP, which will be 13 this turn.
Yeah, Zalae's game plan overall was, and probably still is, to make it as inconvenient as possible for SjoW to deal with those Frauding Berserkers. And judging by that game plan, he will follow through with the attack from the Corcoran on the 4/4. Sure, it is very likely that SjoW by this time will have the Wrath or another swipe to deal with the 1 health Frauding Berserker. Zalae, of course, also had... yeah, but this seemed pretty bad, actually, to just go for... to just attack the Jade Behemoth with the other 2 minions and push a lot of face damage with the Frauding.
Yeah, it's super bad, actually.
Yeah, he decides to actually just go for the
more aggressive output damage, and I think that's the correct way of playing this matchup. Like, if your opponent won't draw one of the answers right now, he just straight out loses, right?
Right. Well, and SjoW finds nothing to deal with this board properly. He wanted to see a swipe here, most definitely. Does find some armor gain though with the Earthen Scales, which can be pretty impactful. But yeah, this 4/4 most likely will have to be suicided into the Frauding Berserker.
He can still get 5 HP. Sorry, he has 6 HP from the Pharaoh Spirit.
Yes.
And that's important. That's actually crucial.
Maybe even more if he utilizes the Innervate for another Jade card.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, he decides to hold on to the Innervate and not play Jade Spirit, just going for the 2 Jade cards and the Earthen Scales.
Interesting.
Yeah, putting him up to 20 health with, what is it now, 10 damage on the board right now.
He actually takes 8 damage to the face. Because he goes for a wider board control because he wants to set up lethal next turn. Interesting. That's 4, 7, 11, that's lethal. What?
Wow. A very risky approach to this game by SjoW.
I mean,
I want to close it out.
I didn't really get that decision by SjoW. Because first of all, you know that your opponent is a pure aggro deck that has a lot of possibilities to deal 2 damage at least from the top of the deck. And he would have won if he would just grasp the board control for 1 more turn, right?
Yeah, it seemed very confusing. I mean, SjoW did not have any more defensive mechanisms in hand, no more taunts or armor gain, but he still had outs to like draw into them.
I'm pretty confused. I probably would have to like look at the board state again, but I think it was pretty obvious to trade the 4/4 into the 8/1 into the Frauding Berserker. But maybe that was if he would have done that, maybe he didn't have a chance of winning the game in the 2 turns. I don't know.
It seems like SjoW wanted to take that risk and hope that, and just hope that Zalae doesn't have the lethal. It was likely because he knew from the start that Zalae's hand was very clunky, so might as well have been like a bunch of weapons still. The read was correct, but ultimately, not good enough because Zalae managed to have the resources necessary to push this final damage through. It was very unlikely that SjoW would have survived based on his play, but the chance was there and he took it, but it didn't work out for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. An exciting game, though. I really like those awkward choices when a player does, right? Because then you have all those question marks. What if? What if that? What if that? Is that a different decision? Doesn't make sense? That doesn't make sense what he was playing around and so on. So it brings up the discussion. But it ended up in SjoW falling down in the first match of Group B. So now he starts on a 0-1. Zalae takes the lead in the group. with a 1-0 score, 3-1 in small points, which don't really matter. So he is in a commanding position to take down Bixby as the one sole representative of NA there.
The only undefeated player in Group B.
Yeah, it's like the most recent born human right now. Such an achievement. Anyway, we're gonna go to a short break, and then we'll have the last match for today, which will be Frozen, who showed up, and Dr. Hebe. So don't go anywhere. This is StarSeries Season 3.